Hi everyone, Harry here, and in this tutorial I'd like to show you Tidy, an After Effects utility script that I hope will make your life just a little bit more organized. Tidy essentially does mostly one thing, although there's a couple bells and whistles in here that I'll talk about. But by and large, tidy's your project. You click the button that says Tidy, and it becomes tidy from not being tidy. And this happens to me a lot. I'll be in the zone working in After Effects, importing things, making comps, and I just don't think much about the organization structure because the awesome ideas I have in my head just need to get out. And a couple hours in, it starts to look like this. And then I'm like, well, I can start selecting things and select my QuickTime movies or MP4s and drag those into folders and rename those. And who needs that? So click on Tidy. And it puts everything into a folder structure. And I hear you already. You're like, what about the folder structure? How do I define the folder structure? I hate your folder structure, Harry. I don't want to use that. I don't like using numbers. I don't like calling it output comps. So you can change all of that. And that's all defined in an external JSON file. And I'll show that actually, I'm going to bring it up right now because there's some cool stuff to talk about. So right next to the drop-down menu, there is a button here that says Edit Presets. And you'll probably get a warning saying you're launching an external file. Be careful what you're doing. And then it pulls up the JSON file. This is actually located, or at least for me, because I put it there. These are in the script UI panels folder. So there's a tidy presets.json and then tidy.jsx. I don't have any fancy installers to put these in the folder for you. Just copy them there and you should be good. Note that you'll need write access to that folder to edit the presets, which that's just how it has to be. There's not really any other way around that. So first and foremost, let's talk about how it organizes things such as comps or footage. So you can see here that we've got output comps, edit comps, and pre-comps. And again, everybody uses different terminology. So let's change these. Somebody's like, well, I kind of like that, but I don't call them output comps. I call them render comps. So I'm going to edit the standard preset. And that's this default one right here. And I'll call this render comps, R-E-N-D-E-R. This is obviously a type that is a comp. But more specifically, I want to talk about this, comp tier. The first tier of comp in JavaScript would be called tier 0. It's just, that's the topmost comp. And a topmost comp just means that it's not nested anywhere else. If I click on this, you'll see this is not used anywhere else. And if it is used elsewhere, then the plugin's not working correctly. Or I'm sorry, script. Tier 1 means that it can be nested one level deep. It's not, don't confuse this with how many times it's been used, because it could be nested in 2 top level comps. That doesn't mean that it's tier 2. It just means it's nested one level deep. And then anything beyond that, tier level 2, I would just consider that just all your secondary comps, the stuff that's elements and whatever, just things that are nested deeply. So that's tier 0, 1, and 2. I don't think it even goes beyond that, but you can try it. Now, let's talk about asset sorting. So let's go to assets, and you'll see that it sorts by file type, like overall type. If it's an OBJ or an FBX or anything 3D will get sorted into 3D. Anything audio-wise, WAV, AIFF, there's a bunch of them. Audio gets sorted in audio, still images, JPEGs, PSDs, all that go into still images, and video, anything that moves, MP4s, MOVs, etc. will get sorted in there. And there's a whole set of categories that you can edit, and I'll show that at the end. That's a bit more advanced, but they're actually pretty easily editable if you want to change formats or add suffixes that aren't in there. So let's say I want to sort these by the actual file type. I don't want 3D and audio and still image. I want JPG, MP4, MOV. Okay, so I changed that to render comps. We've got edit comps. I'll leave that. Now in our footage type, right now it's sorting by type. That's 3D, audio, etc., etc. So I'll set this to false, and then sort by format. I'll set that to true. I'll spell it correctly. Save, and then I'm going to refresh. There's a little refresh button next to the edit button. Refresh that. And now if I click on tidy, go back into assets, now everything's sorted by MOV, MP4, etc. You can do both. And I honestly don't remember if it's customizable, which direction it goes. But if I say type and format are true, reload, tidy, assets, now it's 3D and OBJ, audio and wave, still images, WebP, etc., etc. I don't know if that's useful. That's why it's flexible. Solids are pretty straightforward, although solids is solids folder true. You want at least you want one solids folder. You can't have multiple solids folder. After Effects only has one solids project or solids folder in the project. If I say sort, oh my god, true, and I click on tidy, this will not work. Oh, I didn't reload. Reload, tidy, solids. Now go in adjustment layers, nulls, and solids if you want. But the downside is that the root or the main project solids folder is still the root level solids folder. So if I make something new, it's just going to go in that root folder. I think that covers most of it. There's other things like sorting by aspect, sorting by resolution, if you have any reason to do that. I'll show you what that looks like. Let me just set this flag to true. My God, I think I would be able to type the word true. True. Reload. Assets. Now, if I go to video, it's not working. Sort by resolution, true, standard, reload, tidy. There we go. So anything less than a certain, I think it's 1024, and I'll show you where all that is. Anything less than 1024 is considered SD. And then there's a width resolution for 4K, HD, and etc. So if you want to edit that, or you want to edit the file types, or you have some weird, image format or 3D format that is not a part of this preset sorting, that you would go into the main script itself. And it shouldn't be too big of a deal, but let's say you have something you wanted to add. In fact, I just added recently at the very end WebP because that wasn't in there. So these are all the still image formats right here. Image sequences are simply identified as sequential image sequences, so there's really nothing to define there. 3D formats are all right here. So let's say, in fact, I don't see FBX in here. So let's say you wanted to add FBX. You would want to put that in quotations. Save. And that's it. Audio formats are right there. The resolution categories are based right here, so you could make your own. So like I said, anything up to 1024 is considered SD, 1920, 2048, etc. So that's all there. And then there's also aspect categories right here, if that is helpful. Now let's talk about tagging. As you can see, these tag categories down here. So let's say a good example is like you were on a VFX project, and I'm just going to explode this back in. I don't know if I mentioned it, but Option or Alt will put everything back out at the root level, and then if you click on tidy, it will tidy things again. But let's say I've got some visual effects elements, like I've got some smoke here, or I've got a fireball here. Okay, so next to, I didn't say this, but there's a little collapse button that tidies the tidy. So like it, you really just kind of minimizes the interface. It still looks like it overlaps a little bit, but I'll see if I can fix that. Next to that is enable tags. And there's also a log window here that just kind of logs everything that you're doing. But there's a tag manager, and if I click on this, this is actually a much bigger interface. The currently selected object I have is going to show up right here. In fact, let's say I tag both of these as VFX elements, although one's fireball and one's smoke. So here, I'm just going to select this fireball. This is a VFX element fire and I'm going to say apply tag. You're probably wondering, where does that tag go? It actually creates a comp and uses text layers to store it in sort of an array. You don't really, I mean, I guess you could manually edit these, but really it's just a metadata comp that it uses to store and retrieve data. So, oh, I better go quickly because my battery's about to go dead. Smoke loop, let's say VFX elements, I can say smoke, apply tag, and then now I've got both of these elements tagged. So now I can say, well, I can see all the used tags in my composition, and I can see over here that the item tagged with it is right here. In fact, you can queue that up if you want and shoot it to the render queue. But more specifically, now that those are tagged, you'll see that some of these presets have sort by tag. And I guess you can actually tag comps, technically speaking. But let's say asset sort by tag is true. So now if I go to standard, click on tidy, go to assets, 3D, oh wait, that's not tagged, video, MP4, smoke. Now, real quick, I want to remove that sort by file format because I think that's a bit redundant. False, reload, tidy, and smoke, fire, oh, and it's also sorting by resolution. I'm going to turn that off as well. False. And tidy again. So it's very flexible. I try to make it as powerful as I can but still keeping it very, very simple. Again, my battery's going dead, and that's my motivation to wrap up. But like I mentioned, there's no installer file, so if you unzip it, you're going to get 2 files. Just put those in your script UI panels, and you should be able to launch it right from here. And if you run into any bugs, well, let me know, or fix them yourself because it's essentially an open source project. And yeah, that's really about it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it helps you.